Tom sat in the pilot's seat of his small scout ship, staring at the stars. He was on a deep space mission for Earth Command. His job was to explore unknown areas and report back. It was supposed to be simple, but space was never simple. Suddenly, red lights flashed, an alarm screamed in the ship. The control panel blinked with a warning. Something had hit the ship. A strange energy wave knocked out the engines. Tom tried to fix it, but the ship was falling fast. He grabbed the controls and did his best to land safely. The ship shook as it broke through the atmosphere of a green and purple planet. Trees the size of buildings covered the surface. There were sharp cliffs and rivers that glowed in the dark. The ship crashed between two hills and slid into a deep forest. Tom hit his head but stayed conscious. Smoke filled the cabin. Sparks flew from the broken machines. He unbuckled himself and crawled out. The air was fresh and smelled like flowers and soil. Strange birds flew above the trees. Tom grabbed his bag, took his scanner, and moved away from the burning wreck. He had no idea where he was, but he knew he had to find shelter and help. His suit was damaged. His food would not last long. He was alone on an alien planet. As he walked deeper into the forest, he heard a sound. It was not an animal. It was footsteps, fast and heavy. He turned but saw nothing. Then, out of nowhere, a net flew through the air and wrapped around him. He fell hard. A group of tall figures stepped out from behind the trees. They were not human. They had silver skin, glowing eyes, and sharp armor. Their faces were smooth but strong. They looked like warriors. All of them were female. One of them walked forward. She was taller than the others. Her armor was darker, and her eyes colder. She had a long spear on her back and a sharp blade on her side. She looked at Tom without blinking. She spoke in a strange language, but then switched to broken English. "You are from Earth," she said. Tom nodded. "Yes, my name is Tom. I crashed. I need help." The woman narrowed her eyes. "You are weak, small. No threat." She gave a signal. The others tied Tom's hands and lifted him off the ground. He did not fight. He knew it would only make things worse. They took him to a camp hidden in a valley. The walls were made of tall stone. Inside were strange machines, metal tents, and glowing fires. The camp was quiet. Only warriors walked around, no children. No man. Tom was locked in a cage made of thick blue metal. It hummed with energy. He sat down and looked around. The leader stood outside the cage and watched him. "I am Zira," she said, "commander of this unit. You are now a subject." Tom looked at her calmly. "I'm not your enemy," Zira frowned. "All outsiders are threats until proven useful. We will study you, learn your body, your mind. You will answer questions." Tom didn't like the sound of that, but he stayed calm. That night, the air was cold. The sky was full of stars. Tom sat in his cage, shivering. He saw Zira standing alone near a fire, staring at the sky. She looked different now, not like a warrior, but like someone lost in thought. He wanted to say something, but he stayed quiet. Then she walked away, and two guards stood near his cage. The next day, Zira came back with a device in her hand. She asked him about Earth, about humans, about weapons and war. Tom answered what he could, but kept details about Earth Command private. He did not lie, but he did not tell everything. Zira watched him closely. "You do not fear me," she said. Tom looked into her eyes. "You don't scare me. You're just doing your job." Zira tilted her head. "Strange. Most creatures beg for mercy." Tom smiled a little. "You don't seem like someone who enjoys hurting others." Zira's eyes flashed. "I do what I must. Emotions are for the weak." Tom didn't reply. He looked at her with a soft gaze. Later that evening, a storm rolled in. Strong winds hit the camp. Rain fell like knives. Lightning cracked across the sky. One of the metal tents flew across the yard and slammed into Tom's cage. The power flickered. The bars sparked. Zira rushed forward and pulled the tent piece away. She checked the cage, then looked at Tom. Her armor was wet. Her hair stuck to her face. She reached through the bars and touched his forehead. No one else was watching. Tom smiled at her gently. You're brave, he said, and beautiful. Zira froze. Her hand pulled back slowly. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, her face changed. Her strong look melted. Her shoulders dropped. Her lips trembled. Then tears fell down her cheeks. She turned away quickly. But Tom had already seen. She covered her face with her hand and walked away fast, her back shaking. Tom sat still, surprised. He didn't expect that reaction. He looked up at the stormy sky. He didn't know what just happened. But something between them had shifted, and he knew this was only the beginning. The storm passed in the night. The ground was wet, and the sky was gray. Birds flew quietly above the trees. Most of the alien warriors were busy fixing the camp. Some tents had broken. A tower had fallen. The metal walls were dented by the wind. Tom sat in his cage, watching. His clothes were damp, but he didn't mind. His thoughts were still on Zira. He had never seen anyone cry like that, not even back on Earth. Especially not someone like her, who acted so strong. She had not come back since the night before. No one else spoke to him. The guards only stood near the cage and looked straight ahead. Tom waited quietly. After some time, Zira returned. Her armor was clean again. Her hair was tied back. Her face was cold, but her eyes were not. She walked straight to the cage and stared at Tom. Tom stood and met her gaze. "You will not speak about last night," she said firmly. Tom nodded. "I won't, but I meant what I said." Zira looked away for a second, then stepped closer. "Why did you say that? Brave and beautiful. Why those words?" Tom thought for a moment. "Because they were true." Zira's face twitched. "Do you mock me?" "No," Tom said. "You came into a storm to check on me. You didn't need to. You were kind when you didn't have to be. That is brave. And the way you carry yourself, the way you stand, the way you lead, that is beautiful." Zira stood still, her lips pressed together. She did not blink. Then she took a deep breath and looked around to make sure no one was listening. She sat on a small rock near the cage. "I was trained since I was young," she said. "Trained to lead. Trained to fight. We are told to push down all feelings. There is no room for weakness." Tom listened carefully. "My people believe that emotions are dangerous. We are warriors. We do not cry. We do not smile unless it is for victory. I became commander because I was stronger than the others. I never showed fear. I never showed sadness. Not once." Tom leaned closer. "Until last night." Zira looked down. "No one has ever spoken to me like that. Not even the elders. No one has ever told me I was anything more than a fighter. And then you, a stranger, a human, said something so simple. It broke something inside me." Tom's voice was gentle. "Sometimes a soft word is stronger than a weapon." Zira looked up at him. "I don't understand humans. You are weaker, smaller, and yet your kind keeps spreading through space. Your people are not made for war, and still you win battles. Why?" Tom smiled a little. "Because we don't fight just to win. We fight to protect. We fight for people we love. We fight for peace." Zira was quiet for a long time. The next day, she came again, this time with food. She unlocked a small side door of the cage and passed him a warm meal. It was not Earth food, but it smelled good. "Eat," she said. "You need strength." Tom thanked her. He ate slowly and carefully. The food tasted like roasted fruit and soft meat. It was better than he expected. Zira sat down again. "Tell me about your world." Tom smiled. "Where should I start?" "Start with how you live," she said. "Do humans live in large camps like this?" Tom shook his head. "Some live in cities with tall buildings. Some live in towns or villages. We have homes, schools, farms, music, and art." "Art?" Zira asked. "What is art?" Tom explained. "It's how we show emotions. We paint, we sing, we write stories. We try to share how we feel with others." Zira blinked. "On my planet, that would be seen as useless. Only skill in battle matters." "But feelings are not useless," Tom said. "They remind us we are alive." Zira looked thoughtful. She said nothing for a while, then stood up. "You are strange, Tom," she said. But I do not hate your words. That night, she returned again. She brought a small device and showed him a map of her planet. It was large, with oceans, deserts, and mountains. Most of the land was controlled by her people, the Vela. They had ruled for hundreds of years. The map showed old cities, some now broken and empty. What happened to these places? Tom asked. They were full of thinkers, dreamers, and builders. Zero replied, long ago. But they were seen as weak, so the warriors took control. The cities fell. The people who made art were cast out. Tom looked sad. Maybe that's why you cried. A part of that past still lives in you? Zero looked at him with surprise. She did not reply. A guard called her name from outside the tent. Zero turned and stood. I must go. Tomorrow the council will ask what to do with you. Tom stood too. And what will you tell them? Zero paused. I don't know yet. She left without another word. Tom sat back down in the cage. He felt strange. This place had started as a prison, but now it felt like something more. Each day, Zero came closer to understanding him, and each day, Tom felt closer to her. He looked up at the stars again. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. Zero was not like the others, and maybe, just maybe, she didn't want to be. Tom sat inside his cage, watching the sky slowly turn dark. Days were passing, but he had lost count. The alien planet had its own time, with longer nights and softer daylight. The strange birds flew lower during dusk, and glowing plants lit up as darkness fell. It was unlike anything Tom had seen on Earth. He waited for Zero. She had come to speak with him every evening since the storm. Each time, their talks grew deeper. She asked more questions. He shared more stories. But today she had not come. The guards were quiet and cold as usual. Something felt different. Just before nightfall, Zero finally arrived. Her walk was slower, and her face looked tense. She didn't sit right away. She stood near the cage with her arms crossed. The council met today. She said, they want to study you. They believe you are hiding something. Tom nodded. What do you think? Zero looked away. I told them you are peaceful, that you don't carry weapons. They didn't believe me. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. They think I am losing control. Tom's face grew serious. Because you talked to me, yes. Zero said, they think I am showing weakness, emotion. Tom leaned forward. Talking is not weakness. It's strength. Zero sat down slowly. When I was a child, I wanted to sing. Tom was surprised. Sing? Yes, she said. I found old records in the ruins, before the wars. Before the warriors took over, our people had music, songs, dances, paintings. My mother used to tell me stories about the old ways, but she was taken when I was young. The council said she was dangerous. Tom listened quietly. He could see that Zero's words were heavy. Each one carried pain. I kept my feelings hidden, she said. I trained harder than anyone. I rose in rank quickly. I became commander. But even then, I remember the songs. Tom smiled softly. Do you still remember the words? Zero looked at him. Yes, but I never sang again. There was silence between them for a while. The night was calm, and the stars were bright above the camp. Then Tom spoke. Zero, your people forgot something important. Power is not just in strength. It's in kindness too, in beauty, in memory. You carry something. Your people lost. Zero looked down. Her fingers touched the edge of her armor. I don't know what I carry anymore. Tom stood up and stepped close to the energy bars. You carry the truth. And truth doesn't stay hidden forever. Zero raised her eyes and met his. There's something I want to show you. But I must be careful. Tom nodded. I trust you. That night, when the camp was quiet and the guards were distracted, Zero returned with a small device. She pressed a button, and the cage bars powered down with a soft sound. Follow me, she whispered. Tom stepped out. His legs were sore, but he kept up as they moved through the shadows. Zero led him away from the camp, past the outer walls, and into the deep forest. They walked in silence for a long time. Then the trees opened, and they came to a wide hill covered An old stone dot at the top was a broken building, almost buried in vines and moss. Parts of the roof had fallen, and trees had grown through the cracks. Strange carvings lined the walls. This was one of the old schools, Zira said. Before the warriors erased them, Tom looked around in awe. The walls had pictures carved into them. People dancing, people holding glowing orbs, a woman playing, a harp-like instrument, children painting with bright colors. Tom reached out and touched the stone. It's beautiful, Zira nodded. I used to come here alone as a child. It was the only place that felt real. But one day, the elders found out. They warned me never to return. I never told anyone since. They walked deeper inside. The floor was cracked, but the walls still stood strong. At the center was a round room with a glass ceiling. Moonlight shone through, lighting the middle of the floor. Zira walked to the center and stood in the light. Her eyes were closed. Her face was calm. Tom watched as she took a deep breath and began to hum softly. The sound was slow, warm, and full of sorrow. It was the first time he had heard her sing. Her voice was not loud, but it carried through the room like wind through trees. When she finished, she opened her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. Tom stepped forward. That was the most powerful thing I've heard since I left Earth. Zira looked at him. I haven't sung that song in many years. I thought I had forgotten it, but it was still there, Tom said, just like your heart, still there, under the armor. Zira gave a small smile. It was the first time Tom had seen her truly smile, but the moment did not last long. A sound came from outside, a distant voice. Then footsteps. Zira turned quickly. We must go. If they find us here, they will punish us both. They hurried out of the ruin and back into the trees. Zira led him to a hidden path that circled the camp. She stopped near the edge and handed Tom a piece of fruit. You will need this, she said. I will return tomorrow night. There is more you must see. Tom looked at her. Why are you doing this? Zira looked into his eyes. Because I don't want to forget again. And because you reminded me I'm more than a weapon. She powered the cage back on and helped him back inside. Before leaving, she paused. Thank you, Tom, she said, for your words, for listening, for not laughing when I cried. Tom smiled gently. You're brave for facing the truth. That's not something many can do. Zira gave a short nod and walked away. Tom sat in his cage, holding the fruit. He didn't feel trapped anymore. Something had changed, and he knew this story was far from over. The next day, the camp felt tense. More guards walked around. Their steps were faster, their eyes sharper. Tom could feel something was wrong. He sat quietly in his cage, pretending to rest. But he listened to every sound. Zira had not come since she brought him back from the ruins. He looked for her face in the crowd, but she was not there. The sky turned cloudy, and the wind blew cold air through the camp. Later that evening, 2 new alien officers arrived. Their armor was brighter, and their faces colder than the others. They walked straight to the center of the camp and spoke with the other commanders. Tom couldn't hear the words, but he saw their fingers pointing toward his cage. He leaned forward, gripping the bars. His heart beat faster. Something was happening. In our past. The guards near his cage were changed. 2 new ones stood now, both taller and more serious. They didn't look away. They didn't blink. Tom sat back and tried to stay calm. At night, when the camp was quiet, Zira finally came. She walked quickly, her face full of worry. She knelt beside the cage and whispered, Listen to me. The council has ordered your removal. Tomorrow morning, they will take you to the lab. Tom's face grew tight. Why? They believe you're hiding secrets, Zira said. They want to open your body, study your brain, test your blood. Tom stayed quiet. He knew begging would not help. Zira placed her hand on the bars. I don't agree with them. I see what they cannot. You are not a threat. You are a light in a dark place, Tom whispered. Then help me. Zira looked around. The guards were far, their backs turned. I will return tonight, she said. Be ready to run. She stood and walked away without looking back. Time passed slowly. The sky turned black, and the stars returned. Tom waited without moving. The guards yawned. The camp became still. Then, He saw her again. Zira came from the shadows, dressed in dark armor. Without her rank symbols, she carried a small tool in one hand. She moved fast and silent. She reached the cage, pressed the tool against the lock, and the door slid open. "Come," she whispered. Tom stepped out. Zira gave him a dark cloak to cover his clothes. They walked quickly, staying low between tents and broken machines. Zira knew every blind spot. Her movements were perfect. Not once did they make a sound. As they reached the outer wall, a voice shouted from behind, "Stop." Then Zira pushed Tom ahead. Run! They ran into the forest. Behind them, alarms rang. Blue lights flashed in the sky. Guards chased after them. Zira took a sharp turn, leading Tom through thick trees and glowing bushes. They slid down a slope, crossed a stream, and climbed a rocky hill. "This way," Zira said. "We're almost there." But the sound of boots grew closer. The guards were catching up. Zira turned and faced the path behind them. She pulled out her blade. "Go," she said. "I will hold them off." Tom stopped. "No, I'm not leaving you. You must," she said. "If they catch you, they will never let you go." Tom looked into her eyes. "Not without you." For a moment, Zira stared at him. Then she gave a short nod. "Then we fight together." The first guard appeared, weapon raised. Zira moved fast, knocking him down with her blade. Another guard charged from the side, but Tom threw a branch to distract him. Zira kicked the weapon away and struck the second guard in the chest, not to kill, just enough to stop him. More guards followed, but Zira held the line. Tom helped where he could, blocking attacks and creating noise to confuse them. After a few minutes, the guards pulled back. "They are calling for the hunter," Zira said. "We must leave now." Tom followed her through a narrow path between two cliffs. The wind grew stronger, and the sound of water filled the air. Ahead, a cave opened at the base of a mountain. Inside, it was dark and cold. Zira lit a small lamp from her belt. The light showed walls with old writing and stone carvings. "This place is safe," she said. "No one from the camp dares come here. They believe it is cursed." Tom sat down, breathing hard. "What now?" Zira looked at him. "Now we find a way to reach the highlands. There are people there who still believe in the old ways. They may help us." Tom nodded. "I will go wherever you go." Zira sat beside him. Her armor was scratched. Her face was tired. "I never thought I would break the law for anyone," she said. "But I couldn't let them hurt you." Tom looked at her with warmth. "You already broke the strongest law, the one in your heart." Zira smiled. Not a small smile, but a real one that showed peace. They sat together in silence. Far behind them, the sounds of search teams echoed in the trees. But inside the cave, it was quiet. For the first time, Tom felt truly free. And he knew Zira had chosen freedom too. Morning light touched the edges of the cave. Cold air flowed inside, carrying the smell of wet earth and wildflowers. Tom opened his eyes and saw Zira sitting at the entrance. She was watching the forest below, her hand resting on her blade. Her face was calm but alert. Tom stood and stretched. "Any signs of them?" Zira shook her head. "Not yet, but they will not stop. The council sent someone special. His name is Noro." Tom stepped beside her. "Who is Noro?" Zira's voice grew quiet. "He is one of the silent hunters, trained to find anyone, anywhere. He never speaks, never fails. If he is coming, we must move fast." Tom nodded. He trusted her now more than anyone. He had seen her fight, lead, and choose truth over duty. She was more than a soldier. She was a soul awakening. They packed their things and left the cave. The forest was thick, but Zira moved with purpose. She knew the paths, the hidden stones, and the way the trees leaned toward the sun. Tom followed her steps, careful not to make noise. They walked for hours, crossing rivers and climbing steep hills. Along the way, Zira told Tom about the highlands, a place far from the capital, where a few old families lived. These people still remember the past. They kept the songs, the stories, and the freedom of thought. "They live in silence," she said, "to protect what little is left of the old ways." Tom said, "Maybe they can help us reach Earth." Zira looked at him. They may not have a ship, but they may know of one. As the sun reached the middle of the sky, they stopped near a small lake to rest. Tom sat on a rock, watching the water. Zira washed her hands and face, then looked at the sky. "He is close," she said. Tom stood quickly. "You feel him?" "Yes," Zira replied. "I was trained with him long ago. I know his steps, even when I do not hear them." They left the lake at once, following a narrow path up a rocky hill. Trees grew close together, and their branches blocked the sky. The wind carried no sound. Even the birds had gone silent. Zira stopped suddenly. Her eyes scanned the trees. "He is near," she said. "Hide." Tom crouched behind a thick tree. Zira stayed standing, her blade ready. From the shadows, a figure stepped out. He was tall and silent. His armor was black with no symbol. His face was covered, and his eyes were sharp like a hawk's. He held a long spear, but he did not raise it. Zira spoke first. "Noro, you do not need to do this." Noro said nothing. He took a step forward. "You know I would not break the law for no reason." Zira said, "This human is not our enemy. He is not a spy. He is not a weapon." Noro didn't move. Zira lowered her weapon. "If you fight me, I will not run. But I will not let you take him either." Still, Noro said nothing. He rushed forward. Zira moved fast, meeting his attack. Blades clashed, sparks flew. The sound of metal filled the forest. Tom watched in fear and awe. The two fighters moved like lightning, blocking and striking, turning and twisting. Zira fought with skill and care. She did not try to kill. She only defended and pushed him back. Noro, however, fought with force. Every strike was meant to end it. He aimed for her chest, her neck, her legs. But Zira was ready. The fight went on until both were breathing hard. Zira shouted, "You follow orders. I follow truth." She kicked his weapon aside and stepped back. Noro paused. Then he looked at Tom. Tom stood still. He didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't run. He only looked back with steady eyes. Noro tilted his head. His hand moved toward his belt. Zira raised her weapon. No, but Noro didn't draw another blade. He dropped his spear and walked away. Zira watched him disappear into the trees. Tom stepped forward. "He let us go." Zira nodded. "He saw something in you, something he could not deny." They continued their journey through the forest, climbing higher into the hills. The air grew colder. The trees changed. Their leaves turned blue, and their trunks bent toward the east. The ground became rocky and dry. Finally, as night returned, they reached a wide cliff. Below it was a valley full of lights. Small homes were built into the hills. Soft music floated in the wind. Smoke rose from stone chimneys. Zira took a deep breath. "We made it." Tom looked at the lights below. "It's beautiful." They walked down a narrow path toward the valley. As they reached the first house, an old woman stepped out. Her eyes were gray and kind. She looked at Zira, then at Tom. "We heard the wind speak," she said. "We knew someone would come." Zira lowered her head. "We need your help." The old woman smiled. "Then you will have it." She opened the door. Inside, the home was warm. Carvings lined the walls. A fire burned gently in the middle of the room. Music played softly from a small stone that glowed with light. Tom sat down. He felt safe for the first time in days. Zira sat beside him. She looked around the room and closed her eyes. "We are not done yet," she said. "But this is a start." Tom nodded. "We're not running anymore. We're building something." And for the first time, Zira believed it too. The house was warm and peaceful. Tom sat near the fire, holding a cup made from stone. It was filled with a sweet drink that calmed his body. Zira sat beside him, her armor set aside. She looked different without it, still strong, but softer, like the person she used to be before war shaped her. The old woman who welcomed them was named Mira. She had gray hair and deep lines on her face, but her eyes were full of light. She moved slowly, but with grace. Everything she did was careful and kind. "This place is called Allura," Mira said. "It is one of the last free valleys. The council leaves us alone because they fear what we remember." Zira listened closely. "Do others still live by the old ways here?" Mira nodded. Yes, we have kept the songs, the stories, the art, and the truth. Our numbers are small, but our spirit is not broken. Tom asked, do you have any way to send a message to Earth? Mira walked to a shelf and pulled out a small box. It looked like a stone, but when she opened it, a soft blue light appeared. This is old tech, Mira said, from before the dark years. It can send a signal across the stars, but it must be placed on the high peak to reach your world. How far is that? Tom asked. Zira answered, 1 day's climb. But it's not safe. If the signal is strong, the council will hear it too. Mira looked at Zira. Then you must choose. Hide or rise. Zira looked at Tom. We've been hiding too long. The next morning, they began the journey to the high peak. The path was steep, and cold winds cut through the air. Trees grew thin, and the rocks were sharp underfoot. But the view was wide and full of light. They could see the whole valley, the rivers below, and the sky that stretched forever. Zira led the way, strong and sure. Tom followed close behind. They did not speak much. Their steps were quiet, but their hearts were firm. They reached the top by sunset. Tom stood on the edge of the cliff, the signal box in his hands. Are you ready? Zira asked. Tom nodded. Let's send the truth. He pressed the center of the box. The blue light turned bright. A soft hum filled the air. It began sending a message, a call for help, a record of what had happened and the truth about Zira and her people. But the light was not alone in the sky. From behind the mountains, 3 dark ships appeared. Their shapes were sharp, and their engines glowed red. They moved fast. Flying low over the trees, Zira looked at the sky. They followed the signal. Tom turned to her. We can still run. Zira shook her head. No. If we run now, it will never end. I must speak to them. Tom didn't try to stop her. They climbed back down to the valley. When they returned, Mira was already gathering the others. People came out of their homes, holding tools and old banners. They did not carry weapons. They carried songs, drums, and light. Zira stood in front of them. I will speak when they land. But I need you to show them what we are, not with fear, but with truth. The ships landed outside the valley. The ground shook. Warriors stepped out, weapons ready. Among them stood a group of council leaders in golden robes. One of them stepped forward. Zira, the leader said, you were once our finest commander. Why have you turned against us? Zira stood tall. I did not turn. I woke up. You told us that emotions are weakness, that beauty has no place. But you were wrong. The leader raised his voice. You broke our law. You helped an outsider escape. Zira pointed at Tom. This human showed me something you forgot: honor, peace, and kindness. He taught me to feel again. The leader looked at the crowd. This place is full of rebels. They must be punished. Zira stepped forward. Then punish me. But look at them. They have no weapons. They are not soldiers. They are voices of the past. You cannot erase them. Tom walked beside Zira. I sent the message. Earth will know what happened. If you harm these people, the truth will spread. The leader's face turned red with anger. You are weak, both of you. Mira stepped forward. Her voice was calm. No, they are strong in ways you forgot, and we will not kneel again. The people of Allura began to sing. The valley echoed with music. The drums beat like a heart. Children held lights that danced in the wind. No one ran. No one screamed. They stood together with open hands and steady feet. The warriors looked around. Some lowered their weapons. Others looked at the council, unsure. The leader shouted, silence them. But no one moved. Zira looked at the guards. You know this is wrong. You feel it. Let it guide you. Slowly. One by one, the soldiers stepped back. They put down their weapons. The council was left standing alone. The leader hissed, this is betrayal. Zira said, no, this is truth. The ships did not fire. The council turned and left, their power broken by something stronger than fear. As the ships rose into the sky, the people cheered. Tom looked at Zira. You did it, he said. Zira smiled. We did it. Together. That night, the valley was filled with music and light. People danced. Children laughed. For the first time in many years, hope filled the air. Tom sat near the fire with Zira beside him. They watched the stars together. You're not just a warrior, Tom said. You're a leader. Zira looked at him. And you're not just a visitor. You're part of this story now. The fire burned softly, and the songs continued late into the night. Tom woke early the next morning. The mountain air was cold, and the valley below was still dark. He stepped out of the small wooden shelter Mira had given them. He watched the sun rise behind the hills, lighting the land with soft gold. It was quiet and peaceful, but he knew something was coming. Something big. Zira joined him. She wore simple clothes instead of armor. Her eyes were calm, but her hands were tight. They will come today, she said. Tom nodded. You feel it too. Zira looked toward the sky. The council will not stay silent. They know we're awake now. The night before, Tom and Zira had sent a signal from the high peak. The message was simple. It told the truth about Zira's escape, about the way her people were forced to hide emotions, and how Earth had shown her another way. But most of all, it showed the council that Zira was no longer under their control. That signal had gone not only to Earth but across the stars. Other planets, old colonies, and distant stations might hear it. The council had worked hard to keep people silent, but now the silence was broken. Down in the village, people were moving. Mira stood in the center, speaking to the others. Some were old, some were young, but all had strong eyes. They did not carry weapons, only tools, cloth, and banners. They were not preparing for war. They were preparing for truth. Tom and Zira walked down to them. Mira looked at Zira. The last time your people stood in this valley, we lost our voices. Now, we raise them again. Zira placed her hand on Mira's shoulder. I will stand with you. A boy came running from the edge of the trees, ships, and the sky. Everyone turned their eyes upward. 3 large ships came through the clouds, black metal, wide wings, glowing engines, the same kind that Zira once used during missions, cold and perfect. They landed just outside the village. A group of tall alien soldiers stepped out first. Their faces were covered with helmets. Behind them walked the council leaders. One of them was a tall woman in a red coat. Her voice echoed as she spoke. Zira, you are ordered to return with us. You have broken the law. Zira stepped forward. I will not return in chains. I came here because I was tired of being told how to feel, what to believe. I found truth here. I found myself. The woman narrowed her eyes. You betrayed your own kind for a human. Tom stepped beside her. She chose peace. You chose silence. The crowd behind them stood quiet but firm. The village banners blew in the wind. No one ran. No one begged. They were ready. The councilwoman raised a device. If you do not obey, we will take you by force. Zira looked at the soldiers. You know this isn't right. You feel it, even if you hide it. The council taught us that emotions were weakness, but I see now they are strength. One of the soldiers shifted. His hand dropped from his weapon. The councilwoman shouted, Stand in formation. Another soldier took a step back, then another. Soon, half of them lowered their weapons. The woman's voice rose again. You are soldiers. You swore to follow. Zira raised her voice. They swore to protect. And what you are doing is not protection. It is fear. The woman looked around. Her power was slipping. The people of the village were singing now. A slow song, soft at first, then louder. The sound echoed in the valley. It was the old song of Zira's people, the one she thought was forgotten. Tears filled Zira's eyes. She did not hide them. You took our songs, she said. But you could not take our soul. The last soldiers dropped their weapons. The councilwoman was left standing alone. Her device fell to the ground. She turned and walked back to her ship without another word. The people watched as the ships rose into the sky and vanished beyond the mountains. Silence followed. Then cheering. Mira smiled as she hugged Zira. This saw who you really are. And they listened. Tom looked around. Do you think they'll come back? Zira said. Maybe. But now the galaxy knows we are not shadows. We are people. Later that day, Zira stood before the village. People from nearby valleys were arriving. They had heard the signal. Some had walked for days. Some had hidden for years. Now they came with old songs, stories, and hope. Zero raised her hand. I was once called a soldier. I was trained to hide all feelings. I followed every command, without question. But inside, I was lost. It was a human who reminded me of who I was. Not with force, but with kindness. He said something that I never forgot. He told me I was brave. He told me I was beautiful. And in that moment, I remembered how to cry, not from pain, but from being seen, from being understood. The crowd was silent, listening. We are not broken, Zira said. We are not weak, and we will no longer hide. The people clapped. Some wept, others sang. Tom stood beside her and whispered, "You're leading them now." Zira smiled. Not just me. All of us. The stars were bright that night. Fires were lit across the hills. People shared food, songs, and stories. Tom sat with children round the fire, telling them about Earth, about oceans, forests, and blue skies. One girl asked, "Will Earth come to help us?" Tom said, "Maybe. But you've already started helping yourselves. That's the strongest help there is." Zira watched the sky, her heart full. For the first time in her life, she felt whole.